Roll call.
Mayor Calvadas?
Here.
Mr. Capadas?
Here.
Ms. Pasio? Here. Mr. Kozlowski? Mr. Williams?
Here.
Mr. Bages?
Here.
I didn't call you Ed? I'm sorry, Mr. White?
Here.
Mr. Hampton's not here now? And Mr. Bayshore?
Here.
Public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Act has been given by the clerk in the following manner. 1, posted on the bulletin board in the Borough Clerk's office on January the 4th, 2012. Emailed to the retrospect and the Courier Post on January the 4th, 2012.
Since this was actually re-advertised because we started at 5, and it was advertised on 4/20 in the retrospect.
Okay, thank you.
Here.
Ryan, it's open to you.
Could you use that mic?
Yes, sir. Mayor and Council, I just wanted to thank you for having me come out this evening, explain, we're getting ready to do the reassessment. Basically, we're going to start doing our field work, about May 15th we're going to start. It should take about 6 people to do all the inspections about a month. If someone isn't home and we need to gain access to the property, we'll leave a card, and they can call, and there'll be a number to call, and we will go back and return for the inspection. But basically what we're trying to do is establish what the properties are worth in today's market, so we'll use the most recent sales to establish that. Everyone knows it's been a long time since we've done a revaluation in Runnymede, so we're definitely due. And basically by us doing the reassessment, we're doing it a lot cheaper, about half the price it would cost to do a revaluation, similar to what Summerdale and Magnolia has done recently. And basically have a better idea what's going on in our market than, with all due respect to some of the revaluation firms. They may come down from North Jersey and, they'd have to figure out what our market is. So, we'll be able to come up with the values probably around October of this year. We'll send out the value letters to the residents. They'll have an opportunity to meet with us if they have any questions on that. And basically, we want to try and send out an estimated value along with an estimated impact with their taxes. That way, if they're going from 100,000 in 2012 to 160,000 in 2013, we're going to say that that's would be like a tax neutral thing. Their taxes were 4,000 this year, their taxes would be 4,000 next year. And how we're going to establish those numbers is use the 2012 budget. So that way, because when someone gets a value from 100 to 160, it's sticker shock. So I've been doing revaluations for 22 years now, and I live in Barrington. They just did my town. So it's really a good way to explain to people this is how the reassessment impacts your taxes. But for the most part, I'm sure you heard the rule of thumb: a third goes up, a third goes down, a third stays the same. So basically, that's pretty much what happened. If someone goes up in tax, that means they were underassessed relative to the rest of the town. If someone goes down, that means they were overassessed relative to the town. So, when you haven't done a revaluation, as long as we have, there are disparities throughout the town. So, that's not uncommon. So.
Before you speak to the public, Brian, I know you were kind enough to come this Saturday to the seniors, and we had them, somewhere between 80 and 100, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I thought you did an excellent job of walk them through what you basically told the seniors, how the way your people will be dressed,
Okay.
and what they'll be carrying, and your feelings about taking care of your property, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
You know what I'm talking
Yeah, I might as well turn to the public. Basically, what we're going to do is there's going to be about 6 people coming out. We'll register them with the police department. So if there's any question, please call the police. We don't have to get in that initial time. If there's any question, you can always ask for a card. But basically, the gentleman that will be coming around will have khaki pants on, a collared shirt, an ID, and we're using our existing data, our records. So they will have your current record with them when they come out. And they're basically going to have what's called a tablet computer that'll be around their shoulder. So it's not going to be a paper, clipboard and paper. And they'll have a tape measure to measure any kind of structures. But basically with our existing records, they are pretty accurate. There may be a case where there may be a discrepancy when the field representative goes out there, maybe a half story isn't on the record, but it's there now, so we want to measure that. So again, it's not like the last time. They probably went into every single property and looked at every single little detail, because I know for me with the seniors last week, several of them said that they looked at my ceiling fans, they looked at my microwaves. It's not like that. We go by the overall structure, how big the house is. We do take notes about condition, but to be honest with you, with assessing, we don't really want to assess a house that's really maintained at a much higher rate than one that really needs some maintenance. So that way you're not going to be penalized for fixing up your home, but it does follow market value, so it does take in consideration condition to some degree. But if someone puts granite countertops in their house, I'm not going to assess it for any more than someone that has a 20-year-old kitchen. That's we're not going to police how you maintain your kitchens and things of that nature. So and basically, like I said, if they do have to get in, it's really to your benefit. We're trying to make sure it's accurate. We don't want to assess you for anything you don't have. For example, a bathroom, or finished basement. So if we do get in, there really is a reason why we really want to see it. So it's to your benefit. And again, if it's not a good time, we'll leave a card and we'll come back out. So it's a pretty simple process, And again, we just want everyone to be assessed fairly, because if you're paying your fair share, you'll know everyone else in town is paying a fair share. Because, like I said at the start, when you don't do a revaluation for as long as we have, not everyone's paying their fair share. Maybe some people overassess and some people underassess right now. So open up to questions.
I'll make the motion, we open the public meeting to the audience for questions.
Yes, I have.
Second. Yes, sir.
You want to stand up, please, sir?
I'm assessed at 88,000, right?
Excuse me, sir, before we start, the way we have to do that is if you raise your hand, you recognize and come up to the microphone.
We have to get your name and address.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Will, 21 East First Avenue.
Yes, hold the mic. He'll be there. He's going to need it too.
Okay. Question I have is, I'm assessed for
Talk into the mic. We can't hear you.
I'm assessed for 88,000,
Okay.
and it's an old house,
Okay.
probably 100 years old. Right now, when I moved in, I bought it in 99. My taxes were 2,700. Now, with my veterans exemption, they're $4,490. So, would my assessment go down? My taxes go down, because I know in New Jersey, real estate is 25 to 30% lower than it was in 2008.
It's very difficult to say that values are down, from 2008, 25%, because every market is different. I do a lot of work in South Jersey, and every market is different. So we can't say Runnymede is the same as Cherry Hills, and the same as Lawnside, and the same as Gloucester Township. I can tell you this: you're currently assessed for $88,000. I don't know your house, and I really don't want to talk specific assessments. When we send out the letters, if you want to give me a call, I'd be more than happy to go over it with you at that point. But certainly your home is probably worth more than $88,000. So your value is going to go up to what the value would be in 2012. But again, I don't know what your taxes are going to do at this point, because we don't know what the budget is and things of that nature. So again, with the assessments going up, I'm going to try and explain to people how that would affect their taxes. Just because your value goes up doesn't mean your taxes will go up. Because some people will actually get helped by the reassessment. Some people will get hurt. Some people won't change at all. Basically, 2/3 of the town will either go up or excuse me, go down or stay the same. There's going to be that third that, will probably go up. Unfortunately, they're the ones you hear about because, people aren't happy that they go up. But again, it is, it's a tax neutral process. It's not going to bring any more money into the town. But as a result, some people go up and some people go down. Some people stay the same.
Okay.
Okay, sure. Any other questions? Yeah, Mayor Council, again, I'm more than happy to come out, maybe after we do the inspections, maybe like June or July. But again, everyone has the brochure. They can always give me a call if they have any kind of questions. But, if anyone asks you any questions, please defer them to me because, with all due respect, I'm the one that's doing the reassessment. So I'd rather answer the question and take care of it.
And I know the seniors are looking forward to you coming back.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
And I have an approval for the minutes. All those in favor? Those opposed?
Ready for the report?
Yes, please.
And the report of the construction office for the month of April, a total of $5,089 was collected in permits and CO fees. All monies were turned over to the treasurer. The treasurer's report for the period ending April 30th, 2012, total on all accounts, $3,488,428.33. The report of the borough clerk for the month of April, a total of $4,815.80 was collected for various permits and pet licenses. All monies were turned over to the treasurer. We have the report of the police chief for the month of April, a total of $129.80 was collected for various accident discoveries, solicitor reports, and over requests, and firearm permits. All monies were turned over to the treasurer. The report of the municipal court for the month of March, a total of $11,032.72 was collected in fines, and all monies were turned over to the treasurer. The report of the registrar for the month of April, a total of $2,912 was collected for various death copies, marriage copies, birth copy, and marriage licenses. All monies were turned over to the treasurer. The report of the fire marshal for the month of April, a total of $10,670.29 was collected in permit fees. There were 64 inspections completed, 3 total permits, special use permits issued, and the EMS fees collected for the month were $25,216.39. Monies were turned over to the treasurer. I have the report of the tax collector for the month of April. A total of $1,205,398.59 was collected in taxes, and $31,055.55 in sewer rentals. And that's all.
Thank you. May I have a motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Motion carried. Communication.
The first letter is from Damian Del Duca. It's a letter asking the borough clerk to place a resolution on the agenda for no left turn signs on the Blackbird Pike. Everybody has a copy of the packet of the letter.
Right.
Two. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
The next is a letter from Michael Russo from the DOT advising the mayor that the application for aid for the reconstruction of Reed Avenue has been denied.
Move you see the spread of communication with regret.
Can we have a second on that?
Second.
All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. Public hearing.
We have a public hearing on ordinance 12-02. This is an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank. 48-4-45.14.
I move for adoption on the first reading and advertise according to law for a
Second reading. Public hearing.
Oh, it is a public hearing?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I apologize, I'm sorry.
This portion of the meeting is open to the public on this ordinance and this ordinance only. If anyone has anything to say, they can come to the microphone and give their name and address.
If there is no wishing to speak on it, motion to close the vote.
Motion to adopt on second and final. I gotta close the public portion. Is everyone in favor? Close the meeting?
Yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt on second and final reading and advertise according to law.
All those. Roll call on
Mr. Kapadas?
Yes.
Mr. Kozlowski?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mrs. Passio? Yes. And Mr. Beatrice?
Yes.
That's 6 ayes.
I move this resolution, ordinance be adopted.
The next is ordinance 12-03. This is an ordinance adopting revised personnel policies and procedures manual. This portion of the meeting is open to the public. Anyone wishing to speak on this ordinance and this ordinance alone can come to the microphone and give their name and address.
Thank you, since you know wishing to speak, I make the motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion?
Move for the approval of ordinance 2312. On second reading, the final reading and advertise according to law.
Now roll call.
Second.
Mr. Kapadas?
Yes.
Mr. Kozlowski?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mrs. Passio? Yes. And Mr. Beatrice? 6 ayes.
I move that the ordinance be adopted. Committee reports. Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. On the public safety, we met with Frank Williams, Councilman Williams, Chief, and Paul Daly, and Chuck Billingham from the Sheriff's Department about the prisoners transfer station here. What it would be is a shared service with some towns to come here and drop off their prisoners, and the Department of Corrections would look after them while our cops would still stay on the road. Instead of tying the police up, they'd drop them off here, Department of Corrections would process them, and they would take them right up to the county jail. Our officers wouldn't have to sit here, wait, process them, and send them up and wait up in Camden, because it's a waste of time for a lot of towns, a lot of officers. Especially if there, something goes wrong with the crisis center or something like that, that the Department of Corrections takes over. It doesn't tie the officers up. Because if we only have 2 officers or 3 officers on the street, one of them will be tied up as long as we have that prisoner, and before the sheriff comes down, what they're really doing is eliminate the sheriff. Before he comes down, he might not come down for a few hours. So somebody has to sit here and watch the monitor to make sure nothing happens to the prisoner. So this is something we're kicking around with, and Chuck Billingham, the sheriff, came down. The chief and Captain Daly put on a really nice presentation. They were surprised at how nice it was. They liked our facilities, they talked to us. Nothing's definite yet, it's just something that we're talking about with other towns for shared service. So that's one of the things we've been working on with the shared services with the town. Other than that, the overtime is down only to 4 hours. It was a great job, thanks Chief this month. Rest are up. Everything's going well so far with public safety. The fire department, believe we're gonna appoint 2 more gentlemen tonight. Did they get on?
The resolution's already done, so we're gonna add the second.
He told me it was already
Yes,
done.
we're gonna add 2 EMTs tonight, for part-time. And we're talking to Fred about a couple other things, and Rich is on board with that, to help the fire department out a little better. That's my report.
Thank you, Mike. Under personnel, I'd like to report that the Clean Community Grant Award is $13,161.17 this year. So we're getting a little money to help out. And also, I'd like to report that Earth Day on April the 22nd, I participated with a lot of other people. And it was really a great day. The different different people that helped out were the PTA. They supplied food, water, potato chips, drinks for everyone. The Green Team, the Clean Community Committee, the Boy Scouts, the Education Foundation, and Beautification Committee. The parents were wonderful, and their little ones were wonderful. And it was raining that Saturday, if you remember. And one mother down at the old school where I was had gone out and bought all ponchos, rain ponchos for the children, and just donated them all. And when the children came back up with the bags they had up where they were supposed to, they were all so thrilled. And I must say that the volunteers, I think when we counted them, we might have missed some, were over 160-some people that volunteered for cleaning up the Green Acres. And I'm sure, I don't tell you what section they were in. I was down that area. So it was really good. And I wanted to thank everyone that worked there. And the children were just great. Even some little ones that the gloves didn't fit. They said they don't fit, they fell off their little hands, but they were really cute. And it's something really hard. That's all I have to report on the personnel. I was there, that's the reason I reported on my portion. Finances, Tony?
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. There's some finance things going on that I believe Richard is a little more up to speed, and we'll go through those together under his report. Other than that, I need to talk about some things that are happening. Today, or I should say, Sunday, we started Youth Week in the Borough Meeting. We had 10 children, 7 from Murray Bolton, 3 from St. Teresa's. By the way, that's the total student number in the 8th grade at St. Teresa's, even though last year we only had 1. But in any case, we went to Trenton this morning. We started out at the State Police Museum, an educational compound there. Excellent job by the State Police. Kids, at least the way I read it, I thought had a pretty good time. After we left there, we went to New Jersey Conference of Mayors, which is located at 50 West State Street, directly across the street from the Capitol. And we spent some time there with the executive director, Jack Morrissey, former mayor of Berkshire. One of our chaperones in the audience, had accompanied us. We just had a good time. After we did that, we went to the state capitol we had lunch in the cafeteria at the Capitol. I forgot that. And then we went on a tour with a person that's been here for a number of years, very excellent tour guide. We were met there by Bill Mullen, who's the aide for Assembly Fuentes, and he accompanied us on the tour. So we went to the tour for the Capitol and headed home afterwards. Tomorrow is an off day, and on Thursday we're going to be taking our annual trip to Washington, where we will visit the Arlington Cemetery, the monuments. This year we chose the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court is about to render 2 very, very important decisions that may affect the lives of these children. So we're going to visit the next in line, got a letter like this, if you're a businessman in town. Yeah, I'd like to show you that. He's always sponsored that with Rotary. The ad requests are going to go out to our local businesses for the ad book. We're hoping to finish everything up by May 31st, so we can be to the printer, and it can be at everyone's home before 4th of July. Also, so you know, we decided to put a new wrinkle into this. Because it's been my experience to go to the senior citizens every month, listen to the listen to the representative at the Senior Citizens Club. They collect non-perishable food items, and also cash, which is turned over to the Lutheran Food Bank. And more we're finding that a lot of our townspeople need a little bit of help. So in addition to the baskets that are given out at Christmas and Easter and Thanksgiving, we're going to put a drive on to collect non-perishable goods and monies if you choose to do so at the 4th of July parade. We're going to be asking attendees to bring that there, and all monies and non-perishable goods will be turned over to the Lutheran Food Bank. Also, any booster that's taken out of the ad book, $1 will go to the food bank. So that's a new wrinkle that we're trying this year. A little bit of news at the library. Mrs. Vicente was talking about second graders from Binghamton County visiting the 18th of April, and that's when that was over. The children have been reading books in preparation to, if you read so many books, you get so many points allowed to get door prizes. I tell you what, they come up with some really good innovative ideas. They also assisted in the ARP for tax preparation. And also in the audience, we have a member of the executive board, board of trustees of the library. And that's Mrs. Teresa Napiana there. And she started an adult book club. She's telling anybody, any adult who wants to join the adult book club to please contact the library, and be glad. There's always room, right?
Yes, it's the first
you
Wednesday.
wanna say
It's actually
anything?
tomorrow, yeah, it's actually tomorrow evening is when we meet. We've been meeting for about 3 months now, so it's usually one book a month, so you have at least a month to read a book if you'd like to join us. But, and we decide as a group as to what books we're going to be reading. So if you're interested, come on. There are about 7 or 8 of us that belong to it currently. But it's at 6:30, the first Wednesday of the month. Thank you.
I just have a couple more things. The Runnymede Civic Association with Dr. Bob Sorda and his office staff have a large collection of old newspaper clippings and early documents of Runnymede, and he wanted that everybody, I should tell you, they were found in Berks County, Pennsylvania, attic, and the woman was kind enough to mail them, call Bob, and Bob had to mail to her. And he wanted to let you know that those things, albums, photos, etc., are open for public inspection at the library, and they're going to be kept there because of their historical significance to the town. For example, there's a letter to the assemblyman for our district to pave the Black Horse Pike. There's a letter to a bread company asking for a donation of bread for a local function. There's a news article about our second mayor being born in England and moving to Runnymede from Pennsylvania so he could be close to his RCA job. I saw some of them. It's just unbelievable. I thought years ago when I went to the Steel Pier and I saw a newspaper clipping about the theater that burned down in Runnymede. That was kind of neat, but there's some really old stuff. If you have some time, just get over to the library and I'll be glad to look into that. Also, Memorial Day, Monday, the 28th, we're going to have a luncheon for our veterans and a special dedication to the memory of James Gilch, a local soldier who gave his life in defense of our country during the Vietnam War. Also, it's in the early stages of a Veterans Parade. There'll be more to follow with this. I don't want to mess it up too much, but I understand that maybe Bob might be the parade marshal, but just anyone interested in participating in the Veterans Parade. It's going to be held on June 23rd at 9 a.m. My understanding is that the three towns that are now involved in it are Wilson Township, Glenora, and Roanoke. This is VFW, all right?
It's at Belmar also.
Oh, okay, no.
Belmar.
You're right, and Belmar. So it's in the early stages, and I'm sure that we'll have more report on that. Other than that,
Thank you. French?
Pretty much just want to report progress. Right now, we do have a contractor working in our back, fixing all the jail cell floors back there. It took them all week almost to get it up. We just found out that Mark, right, he's been all week, right? He's grinding, a lot of grinding, and just to get the old floor down, we just found out that the floor back there, the reason why there was such a failure on that floor was because the concrete has 99.9% vapor in it, moisture. So now we have to go back and Mark, I guess we'll be working on it, but we have to go with, I guess, the rubber tile spec is calling for some kind of liquid epoxy to hold down the vapor so the tile sticks and we never have a problem again. But I will say that Frank here is doing a hell of a job back there. He's a good contractor. You're not going to get shortchanged with Frank. I do know that we had a little leak up at Harry Williams building. Mark, I guess you report on that, okay? And otherwise, pretty much progress, okay? And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Nate?
Yes, thank you. Summer recreation will begin July 2nd, be closed on the 4th of July so that the children can attend the parade, and end on July 27th. It is a 4-week program at a cost of $40 to run meet children in grades 2nd through 8th. Last year, we had over 90 kids participate, and we are anticipating at least that amount for this year. We're also reaching out to the counselors from last year and are soliciting new applicants. The program will include arts and crafts, athletics, swimming, cheerleading, trip to the firehouse, movies, and games. It's very similar to the program we had last year. Daily snacks will be provided to the children, along with special donations for business and groups. Councilman Bernie Moore had set this up last year. We're pretty much following that model. It was very successful. I think we're going to have even more children this year. There's a resolution, is that correct, or is an ordinance on tonight for the amount, for the $40 for us to collect that amount? We'll start having, it is a $5 increase. The reason for the $5 increase is that that'll cover the snacks for the children, and it also allows us, there has been some talk about maybe even extending it an extra week. If there's an interest, I'm going to look into that. I did speak to our superintendent of schools, and she had said that there might even be an interest to adding a music element to the program. So we have some flexibility here. We'll see what our interest is and move forward on it. The major cost is obviously our counselors and the head counselor that we pay. But like I said, most of the snacks are donated, but there is some cost. We have $400 in cost last year. Tonight, there's also a proclamation honoring 100 years of the Girl Scouts. And also our troop, our local troop, it's their 87th year. They were established in 1925. Everyone has a list of the accomplishments of our local troop. Once again, there will be a Veterans Parade marking the end of the Iraq War on Saturday, June 23rd, as Tony said. It'll be a parade down the Black Horse Pike. Is mine on? Oh. From the War Memorial in Glendora to the War Memorial at the Harry Williams Building. We will have, with the other towns that Tony was saying, Belmar, Gloucester Township, and Runnymede, we'll have tents provided by, supposedly, this is all preliminary stages, tents from the county, the stage from Belmar, hot dogs and hamburgers, an open free event for all our DFW clubs, our American Legion clubs are going to be honored along with active service men and things like that. This is the preliminary stage. And I do know that Mr. Pelsor hopefully is,
Well,
his
you know,
experience.
it sort of makes sense, because, when we, as a matter of fact, I had a call on a band in the 4th of July parade. We turned them down because we can't come to a very, very difficult. If you have somebody like Bob, you get more students, that's great.
Yeah, we're hoping the bands will be the high school bands from what I was told, and the organization will be soliciting donations from businesses and citizens to help offset the cost for this parade. From what I understand, there will be some cost to the borough, so hopefully we can add that to our budget, cost for cleaning up and things like that. Youth baseball, soccer, and youth baseball, softball, and spring soccer are in full swing right now. All the fields are being used. There's a letter, and I do know and appreciate that the mayor, Council President Beatrice, and Councilman Kishaleski went to Barrington to speak to them about shared services and things like that. One of the things that was brought up, and if I could just take a few minutes, I was only brought into this because I'm the Director of Recreation, and Councilwoman from Barrington is also the Director of Recreation. So she had reached out to me originally about Runnymede sponsoring, or being one of the sponsors of their fireworks show that they have in Barrington every year. I just wanted to make sure, there's an email that's been given to everyone, that they wanted to make sure that the council understood that it would only be a sponsorship. And just quickly, it would just be an advertisement for the Borough of Runnymede, saying that we helped Barrington put on this event. And then we would also obviously say to our residents, that they could go there. Not that they would be precluded from going there, but we would, tell our residents that we're helping out with that. And they would be responsible for police, fire, EMTs, and things like that. I did speak to our CFO earlier on, before I even followed with this, that I did look at our budget. I know we haven't passed our budget, but there was, looking at it, what we're going to be spending with recreation and spending this year in recreation, it is possible that there is $1,000 there. So if the money is an issue, I think we're covered with $1,000. But if there's other concerns, I do understand that this council has concerns about fireworks.
I'll just add something here. I did attend that meeting, and the councilwoman asked me to look at it. And understandably, I'm sure there's a lot of Runnymede residents to go over and watch the fireworks. At that particular time, the monies that we're talking were more than $1,000.
Yes.
And immediately, I did what I told the councilwoman I would do, and I came back and I talked to the CFO about monies, if we had any money. And when we looked at it, at that point, not solely into your recreation, and you're not thinking $1,000, we did not have it. So my reply to her was in kind, verbally to verbally. Now, if you're looking for to donate $1,000 out of your budget, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, just to make clear, I think it was a miscommunication. The Barrington originally maybe said to us $4,000.
Yeah.
And in her email, she does clarify that that was what they were short, and they were not asking Runnymede to make up their entire $4,000 shortfall. They were going out for sponsorships.
I want you to know that I immediately went to the CFO.
And I understand 4,000 was a much higher number than $1,000. So once again, I think it's a positive thing. Just to piggyback on that, she did come down here to look at our bus, and I understand that we did help them out with their Youth Mayor and Council program on Friday. Is that correct? Right? We did do that. We have a brand new bus. It's wonderful. I think we supplied the bus driver for that event. The two things they were asking were, they're interested in buying our old bus. So I would hope that we would at least allow them to come take a look at it, and maybe they can make an offer to purchase the bus, our old bus.
I know that.
And hopefully we can do that. But along with that, they had also asked if they could use our bus for their summer rec program. We keep ours all in house. They do a one-day-a-week trip. So the only thing we would need from Public Works, I guess Director Williams, was what the cost would be for them to use our bus. The only thing I said the constraints were is the bus is used with us on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the seniors. So only on Tuesdays and Thursdays would the bus be available. Rich made a point that our part-time bus driver might have some conflicts or his salary requirements. But I think we should at least look into it if we could possibly. We already buy our fuel from them, so they would obviously fill our gas tank up.
Just interject a thought. If that does happen, let me know. I can get a certificate from the JIP to cover
The insurance.
insurance.
Well,
So-
Barrington's in the JIF
Well,
also.
I know, but it's just like Magnolia picking up the trash for the 4 towns that they do it.
Yes.
And they access it, have them all be charged against Magnolia.
Okay, we do.
So it's something that, it's no big deal, just,
But when we give them, but see, now, this wasn't necessarily good, they have some budgeted money for industrial. So I think what Youth Mayor and Council, we just gave it to them that day, and for Oktoberfest, we gave it to them that day. This is their recreation budget, they actually charge their students a little bit more, but the idea is that they get to go to Citizens Bank Park. It's a much more expensive and limited program that they have. Their problem is that they do not own a bus. And, cost of running a bus from a private organization is much higher than hopefully what the cost would be from.
They may have to go depends on having children, so they'd have to go back and forth.
Well, they would limit it to the amount of bus. When they came and looked at the bus, they saw we had up to 22 persons if the seat was put down. And so that's where they would limit with their counselors and things like that. At least that was what the understanding was when I showed you.
well, I'm sure we would want to have that.
Okay, great. And then, obviously, that's it. The only thing I wanted to bring up, I don't mean to, I understand that hopefully it's not on the payment of bills tonight, but there's been some talk during the Earth Day function, the Education Foundation, we're hopefully tonight we can cut the check for the $500 for that. I'm under the impression they might be ready, or at least ready very shortly.
I spoke to Richard, as it came in the door, Richard spoke to me about that.
Okay, so that's a good thing. Great. And I saw we had the $13,000, so.
Yeah.
And then that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Ed?
Thank you, Mayor. This month, the engineering committee worked with Mr. Bayshore on getting the road projects awarded. You'll see that's on the agenda for tonight. And West Third Avenue, that's going to be going out for bid. So hopefully we get that on the agenda next month. Bids come in. Award that. And the handicap grant program, everything's going out tonight. And we're working on stuff for next year. And we're getting ready to close out the jobs we did last year. We're moving ahead. Forward progress.
Thank you. Pat?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. On April 21st, I visited the battleship USS New Jersey to do a photo shoot for Hands Across New Jersey with the Federation for Democratic Women. According to Pat Egan-Jones, surrogate to Camden County, there was a rumor regarding our most decorated battleship leaving Camden, New Jersey port and going up to North Jersey. It is just that, a rumor, and the USS New Jersey is here to stay. She belongs to us and will remain with us. I just want to make a comment too on Earth Day. Just a few more special thank yous. I do want to thank Anthony's Water Ice for all the water ice, and Home Depot for trash bags, Sign Pro for the beautiful sign, the face painters, Public Works. It was a great day. Everyone came out. It was rainy, it was windy, but we had a really good time. And we were able to teach the children that recycling does make a difference. I also attended a Women's Club meeting. They had a function last Tuesday at the Senior Center, and I helped to create a pinwheel garden on the library lawn to bring awareness for the prevention of child abuse. Children are abused daily, every minute, and we need to be made aware of that and help any way we can. Also at that time, and I know that the engineer knows that now, that the senior building was leaking, and I removed a ceiling tile because it was ready to fall, and that the floor was wet, and it will be addressed with the engineer. Runnymede School Board voted on Superintendent Dr. Nancy Ward's contract. The school board renewed her contract for 1 year beginning July 1st, 2012, and ending June 30th, 2013, at a salary of $139,233. I also would like to tell you that I called Robert Outlaw from the Department of Health to ask about mosquito control for Beaver Branch Park. He informed me that they no longer do any spraying, but he directed me to the director of the Mosquito Commission, John Swarovski. He said that they do a special spray if necessary. So I called that number that he gave me, and right now I'm waiting for a return call. It seems that we're just playing phone tag back and forth. This week, as we all know, is Mayor, Youth, and Council, and I attended the opening celebration on Sunday night. I met with Jonathan Kassam, who will be the Director of Health Education Welfare for a week. I was very excited to talk to Jonathan and his family and explain my duties and responsibilities, and I will be available to him at any time for any questions he might have. This concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
You're welcome.
Administration, Richard?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. We had a very busy week last week. And we have a couple items for consideration from council. There was 2 grievances that were filed in the police department some time ago. They made their way through to the arbitrator coming in. We met on Thursday with regards to the first one. The first one, if you recall, at the August meeting, former employee Steve Van Camp and his attorney addressed council regarding what they thought that his severance payout should have been based on their interpretation of the contract, and it was about $21,000. At that point in time, I believe the borough paid out approximately $7,300, and that was based on my interpretation of the contract. In accordance with the local finance board rules, I basically have to certify the amount for the payout. So since they weren't happy with the amount, went through the grievance process, we met with the arbitrator, and she reviewed the contract, and basically her opinion is more or less not appealable unless there's, with regards to interpretation. So, you know, if she did something improperly, then we could appeal it. So we really had no choice other than to go along with what she said at the end of the day, both sides of the table. And there was 3 main categories that were in question. The first one, Mr. Van Camp felt that he should have been paid for his unused sick time for the full year. The second one was that he felt that he should have been paid for 100% of his holiday hours, and we prorated the holiday hours through July 31st. And the third category was he felt that he should have been paid for 100% of his vacation time, and we prorated that based on civil service rules and my interpretation of the contract. With regards to sick time, the arbitrator agreed with us and said that there was no, that she didn't see that he should be paid for sick time. With regards to the holiday time, she felt that we properly did that with regards to prorating it through July 31st. When she got to the vacation portion, we spent several hours going back and forth between the parties and the lawyers. And there's a provision in there in section 5 that basically says upon notification of retirement that the officer may elect to utilize their time until retirement. There is no provision for payment, but she had a concern that when our 4 councils agreed to contracts that, you know, someone who was at the end of their career, maybe there was intent possibly to reward the employee for years of service by, you know, letting them take all of their time. So when, you know, since we applied the civil service rules to the first 2 categories, you know, civil service rules said that you get paid for your vacation time. So she felt that he should be paid for the whole year's worth of vacation time as opposed to prorating that. So we reached out to both the finance director and to the public safety director, and based on council's recommendation that that was the way that the arbitrator was leaning, and when she tells you that that's where she's leaning, you know, if you pay for another day of her time, that's what she'll write in her opinion. So basically, we come to a settlement agreement in which we would pay him for the balance of his vacation time. The dollar amount on that, give me a second here, is $5,733.15, and that was for the portion of time past July 31st. My recommendation to council is that we agree to this, because if we go to the next step, we will pay another $1,800 and pay for another day of our lawyer, and we're going to get the same result. Also, the way that it's written, is that anyone else retiring under the terms of this contract, which goes through June of 15, they would be bound by the same rules with regards to holiday time, sick time, and vacation time. So that would be an item that I would request when we do resolutions, that we, I guess verbally or however Jack would do it, recommend the settlement agreement for that.
Excuse me, Rich.
Yes, sir.
Sorry for a second. You said that the award was only for the third item, which was for holiday time?
Vacation time.
Vacation time, excuse me.
Yes.
Oh, vacation time, not holiday.
Correct. Okay, that's fine.
Because how many days was that?
What's that? The holiday or the vacation?
Vacation, how many days was it?
I believe it was in terms of hours. And unfortunately, 150 hours at the rate of 38.221.
Okay, that's fine. I'm sorry, I thought you were saying it was holidays, there was only 6 holidays left, but it was, I thought it was the wrong part. It was
Right.
Vacation time that he accrued.
Correct.
He gets at the beginning.
Right. We also had a second item lined up for today, and that item dealt with an employee that was a provisional sergeant for a period of time, and we had a civil service letter that recommended, or that actually ordered us to recognize this employee as a provisional and as an interim sergeant during a period of time when we had another sergeant was on a medical leave of absence. When that officer when that officer retired, there was no more spot for that person to serve interim on. He was paid officer in charge time for every shift that he worked in accordance with the contract, but he felt that he should have been paid for the time, basically paid as a sergeant, so he would have been paid for sick time, vacation time when he wasn't on a shift. After getting a copy of the letter from Civil Service, I agree with them. I spoke with both Lou Rosner and Jack, and we basically felt that we wouldn't win that. And we came to you previously and we agreed to, I think we paid out about $1,400 or $1,500 to settle that issue. He felt that he should have been paid until we appointed new sergeants, which really would have been a provisional appointment. And basically that's what his grievance was alluding to. The dollar amount on that was about $3,500, and we did not agree with him. But when we were done with our proceedings on Thursday, the lawyers got together and they offered a settlement for $1,000, which is less than we would have had to pay for the arbitrator and for Mr. Rosner. So the recommendation was made to the finance director and to the public safety director that it would be cheaper to settle it than to actually proceed with the case. And if we ended up with an arbitrator that felt that we should split it down the middle, we would have ended up paying, $1,500 plus another $1,000. So from a financial point of view, since this isn't really a precedent-setting case, and also the fact that it's actually in language in there that it's not setting any precedent, the recommendation is to settle that case for $1,000 due to economic reasons. So there are our two items that we'll be requesting that you take action on tonight on the personnel.
I think what's happened here, in a couple of the occasions, because you can see how the arbitrators, well, it's this conversion from regular things into now civil service. Because there's a lot of things that civil service and the new contract did not help with each other.
Does the new contract clarify some of these? I mean, I've read it,
To
and
some
some parts
degree,
only say.
that provision was not removed, it still exists in the contract.
But there's civil service provisions in there, they contradict each other?
It's not clear in the language is what the problem is. And this was part of why it took so long to get that final document, because
That's what I'm getting.
what does civil service mean? And, the statute's pretty clear what it says. It says that your time is prorated. Our policy manual is pretty clear what it says. It says your time is prorated. Unfortunately, the established past practice has been that you can say, I'm going to use my time, and I have printouts that show other officers that did. The question then was for the arbitrator, well, is it a monetary value or not? And And she was going to limit it to just that one case and say going forward that they could use their time and not be paid. But then the union says there's still 2 or 3 people under this contract that could retire during this term, so they weren't willing to agree to that. So it's something that can be addressed in negotiations in the future. With regards to your previous question on how do we avoid the grievances, and I'm not being smart when I say this, we could have paid $21,000 and we wouldn't have had a grievance.
It was the right thing to do, absolutely. I mean, I of course question, how we arrive at those numbers. How does
Right.
one party arrive at 21,000, another party arrives at 7,300? There's obviously a
We
disconnect.
agreed on
There's a
every,
big disconnect between the two
It's a matter
parties.
of interpretation of contract.
It's obviously not.
we agreed on the hours. The main basis was, A, do you pay for sick time? And B, when you make your payments, are they prorated or are they for 100% of the time that's on the books? In accordance with civil service and practical procedures, it would make sense for us to go through for every, even though we're smaller, to go through every month and do postings to give people another month's worth of time. So the way that it reads is
You're talking about
in
showing
anticipation.
your paycheck every week.
Right, in anticipation of continued employment, we credit you with your full year's worth of time. If you leave early, then you owe us that back. Unfortunately, with regards for this contract, for this term, if a police officer is retiring, they are going to be paid for 100% of their vacation time. So, but we agreed on everything else other than the prorating and the sick time. So the hours we agreed with,
So
which
what
is how you
I
handle it.
tonight is that the idea to pay these two bills? That's the recommendation.
Authorization to pay them. We also have the resolution for the budget on the finance. I will just say that we have that because I'm sure we'll discuss that when we get to that point. And I won't hold you up any longer.
And so this,
Thank you, Mayor. First, let me apologize for being 15 minutes late. I thought I was going to be 15 minutes early, but I got started early on. Okay, a couple of things. Prior to the April deadline for tax appeals, we had a number of tax appeals that were filed. I think only 4 or 5 of them, so it wasn't that bad. And we did actually file a notice of cross appeal for one property on the Black Horse Pike that is currently being litigated. With regard to the resolution for the one-way drive on the Flam parking lot, there has been, as Ms. Pinto had noticed in the correspondence, we did receive some documentation from a Del Duca Lewis law firm requesting that we do a resolution limiting the turning onto that piece of property where the Flam used to be. I certainly have no objection to doing a resolution, but if we want to put any teeth to it, it's my recommendation that we revise our ordinance, our traffic ordinance, to include that in there. It's somewhat different because it is a state road and we have to get state approvals for the painting and the marking of the Blackwood's Pike. But if we include that into our parking ordinance or our traffic ordinance, then we have the authority to write tickets under our road ordinances as well. So we certainly can pass the resolution, so it can be placed on our books and our ordinance books as recommended to the ordinance.
So we have a first reading on one. Okay, makes sense. Well, my concern was that, number one, described in the letter was that it could affect the approval of the site, number one. Number two, I didn't know they had got state approval to do that.
Isn't that the letter that's attached? Isn't that the state
Yeah,
saying they
until I
requested?
got the second, well, I don't know if I got that together, but if I did, I didn't have it together, so, if that's going my concern. The only thing was, I did not know if we passed an ordinance, we could write the ticket.
Okay, and essentially, that's why I have no objection to having the resolution prepared, because that's what they're asking for, so they can proceed with their project. Our resolution applicable for 1 year, for the year of 2012. If we wanted to actually have it on the record so it could go forward, we either have to do a resolution every year, which is not practical, or we could amend the ordinance. So that's my suggestion.
I spoke to Jack Stieri, the one that wrote the letter to Del Duca, and he said, well, because I asked the same question, Mark is in the office with me, but called. Because Mark is concerned, what is the authority that we have to stop anyone? We don't have an ordinance on the books, but my understanding is the ordinance has to be approved by the state before we can implement it. You have to submit it to the state.
Once we have second reading, we can submit it to the state COP.
So that's the procedure, because then this gentleman suggested that I speak, I have the information in the office to the president of the DOT who's in charge of that. So I have called him 4 times, I have received no reply from the gentleman that handles Mr. Chris, I think it's Barron, I have to, trying to get the procedure, the order in which that you do this all, find out how you do that, and I have gotten as many cases with the state, no reply. So that's, but Jack, if you're telling me that's what you'll do, then I would submit it to the state afterwards for approval?
Right, I mean, basically what we would do is we would amend our ordinance to include a no left turn into that parking lot. And then once we have the ordinance, we would submit it up to the county, or up to the state, excuse me, so that they can review it and notify them. But there's actually, for striping purposes and things along those lines, signage, that is all gonna have to be done from the state level. And it's my understanding from reading the letter that they received the state approval from that. But since it's a state road, they're gonna be the ones that are gonna have to be responsible.
That's what Mark was concerned about, the authority that we would have to stop them and then bring it in, it would come into our courtrooms,
Yes.
and then how the fines were.
We would include it into our general ordinance for traffic, and the fines would be consistent with the fee schedule in our ordinance. And I'll take care of the ordinance to make sure that that jives with the rest of the ordinance.
I don't know if you need any more from these people, I can try again, but they just don't respond.
I have the same information, so I'll try to reach out to them as well.
So we're gonna do a resolution and ordinance, or just an ordinance?
Well, my suggestion to do the resolution is because that's what they're asking for. Just from a practical standpoint, I don't know what the resolution is going to be. I'm concerned to do the resolution and send it down some section. I haven't heard. That's what I need. The only other item that I have is I just wanted to advise council that every year we have to do a review to the different amounts to make sure that we are in compliance with their updates. We actually had our second reading to revise the personnel policies and procedures manual this evening, which passed. And I sent in a letter to Mel on April 27th confirming that everything is in compliance, which had to be done prior to May 1st, so we can get our deductible. So that is
Every 4 categories, right?
yes. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Mark?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've had a very busy month. I submitted my report in writing, and a few things that I have to go over, clarifying in the report. Under general engineer, we did submit the Camden County open space application for Beaver Granite Park. So hopefully we'll hear back regarding the $25,000 grant. The 2012 handicap grant program, we have an award recommendation letter to the low bidder of Diamond Construction, and that's on your agenda tonight as resolution 12-63. Under the 2012 road program, Reed Avenue Phase 1, again, we have an award recommendation letter for Esplanade Construction Incorporated, in the amount of $215,745, and that's in your packet as resolution 12-62. And just to clarify on the letter that was the second communication from Michael Russo, that was for Phase 2, which we applied for. Your funding for Phase 1 is not affected. So there was some discrepancy regarding that floating around, but we still have that $250,000 we got last year. And last council meeting, there was a resolution passed authorizing us to submit phase 2 as another discretionary aid application. We're in the process of doing that. So to clarify for Reed Avenue, phase 1 and phase 2. The East 3rd and East 2nd Avenue projects were recommending the award as one project to Bogey Trucking and Paving in the amount of $163,965.80. And that's on your agenda as resolution 12-61. The West 3rd Avenue project, we're finalizing the contract documents. It's going to be advertised with the bid opening of Thursday, May 24th. And that will allow enough time for the 5 days to pass in case the bidder wants to admit a mistake, so we can award it at June 6th. I think it's June 6th because of election day. So that will be awarded hopefully on the June 6th council meeting. The 2011 road program, our inspector is currently coordinating with the contractor regarding some punch list items. We want to get that job closed out. Right now, we're sitting on $16,000 in retainage to address those issues. The improvements to various borough buildings. We've talked about this a little bit, the municipal building roof and the Harry Williams building roof. Both have leaks. Steve Bach and our other architects went out and looked at the issues there. We don't think it's related to the work that both contractors did, but we're going to work with John Gunn and we're going to flood the roofs with either his jet truck or a fire hose. Steve thinks it has to do with the scupper system, which is the roof drainage system. Neither of the systems at either of the roofs were worked on as part of the original contract, but it doesn't look like there's any emergency way that once the water starts backing up, get out of the system. So Steve wants to look at putting in some emergency relief valves on the drainage system. So we're going to work with John Young. They're trying to coordinate that for later this week. I haven't heard regarding the schedule, but I know that's something that they're going to look at. If it turns out that can be fixed, we're looking at doing it as change orders with the current contractors. Again, we don't think it's anything that any work that they had done. It's just we think it might be an issue with the existing drainage system. The jail cell floor, we had the pre-construction meeting, we gave a notice to proceed, and as Councilman Williams mentioned, it's under construction now. They're tearing up the existing floor. We do have an issue with the water vapor content. We're looking into make sure what we spec out will work with that high of a water content. But other than that, like Frank says, they're doing a tremendous job back there. Very dusty. And, they're all working hard. The municipal building side egress door, we are finalizing the plans for that. John Gunn helped us because we could not find original design plans for the flooring system, and we have to go in and tweak that when we raise the door level back there. So John cut an access hole in the floor, so our architect department could come up with an as-built plan, so we can come up with a plan for how to fix the drain problem back there. Tax map updates. Jim Conway from our office is going to coordinate with Brian Schneider to make sure everything is okay with the state. Make sure that Brian has submitted our the tax maps to the state as part of the reassessment procedure. So Jim's going to be coordinating with Brian to make sure all that is happening.
The tax maps are done, because it says November, it went to the planning. Is that done?
That's the zoning. The zoning map is done.
Done?
Steve has to go back before the planning board to revise. It is done, he just has to set a date for that. Tax maps, we did the updates, we submitted them to the borough, and Brian got a copy. I just want to make sure he gives the tax maps to the state as part of the assessment process. The revitalization project of the Black Horse Pike, again, our inspector is coordinating with the contractor on the punch list items. I think there's still a few items to those out there, but we want to get that done so we get a reimbursement on that. And Beaver Branch Park, we have 2 projects, the soccer field with the irrigation well, and bathroom facility with the pump station. Last month I said we were getting real close to going out to bid. John Gunn had some concerns with the water table, so So we conducted a test pit out there. John did encounter a high water tip, so we're in the process of revising our wet well design for the pump station. We used to have it as a 10-foot deep well. We're revising things to a 6-foot deep well, and that unfortunately affects our pump design and our rating criteria. So we're in the process of making those changes, and I'm hoping to get that out to bid. I want to have it in the paper long enough so we can have an opening and get it awarded in June. That's my goal, and I'm hoping to be able to.
I mean, that's why slowing down on the soccer fields, or is it all tied in?
It's all tied together. So we are going to get those out. And the last thing, is Public Works Garage, we have to get an LSRP on board, which was a licensed site remediation professional. Steve Bach did interview some potential candidates. He has decided he wants to use Environmental Resolutions, Inc., which is URI, as a self-consultant to us. That way the borough doesn't have to go out and advertise for a special consultant. We'll just use them as a self-consultant to us. And we're going to get them, we're using them in 5 different towns. The concern was if the borough hires an LSRP, they could dictate their own work level, and we want to have some type of control over what they dictate. So we think if we're overseeing them in 5 towns, we'll have a little bit of rule with that to make sure that they don't break the rules.
Did you tell the state that that's what
We are in the process of doing that. So if you are right up to date on the process out there and the progress, and that concludes the end of my,
Excuse me.
yes.
I know what, John Hunt spoke to me about the high cost of the wiring. And now I see that he's, we come up with an alternate idea. My concern is this, we're looking to get another $25,000. In fact, I'm confident that we'll get $25,000 more this year over the space. We need to show a little bit more, because I'm going right back after another 25. I like getting that money every year. And you know, we're this close to having 3 acres the way we want it, and I just think we're not moving fast.
We are going to be getting it out into the paper as soon as I can.
When's our deadline?
Don't be there to inspect the site yet.
When do they come out there?
I don't have the final data. But, you know,
I have,
we can talk to them and tell them exactly what we need.
but I can show them what we have and how close we are to getting it out. So I have met with them out there the past 2 years.
I don't want to break the streets where we.
I will do my best to get it out so we can get it awarded.
Thank you, Mark. And do we have any old business? Any new business?
We have a proclamation. It's the 100th anniversary of the Girl Scouts, March 12, 2012. Whereas on March 12, 1912, Juliet Daisy Gordon Levitt summoned 18 girls from Savannah, Georgia for a local Girl Scout meeting. And whereas she believed that all girls should be given the opportunity to develop physically, mentally, and spiritually. And whereas within a few years, Daisy's dream for a girl-centered organization was realized, and today Girl Scouts of the USA has membership of over 3.2 million girls and adults. And whereas Girl Scout troops travel from across the United States year-round, take part in programs and learn more about the organization and its founder. And whereas in Girl Scouts, girls discover the fun, friendship, and power of girls together. Through a myriad of enriching experiences such as extraordinary field trips, sports skill building clinics, community service projects, cultural exchanges, and environmental stewardships, girls grow courageous and strong. And whereas Girl Scouting helps girls develop their individual potential, relate to others with increasing understanding, skill, and respect, develop values to guide their actions, and provide foundation for sound decision-making, and contribute to the improvement of society through their abilities, leadership skills, and cooperation with others. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Bertha Calvadas, Mayor of the Borough of Runnymede, on behalf of all of our residents, do hereby recognize in honor of the 100th anniversary of their founding, the contribution which the Girl Scouts of the USA have made to our country, and also recognize our local chapters for what they have contributed to the Borough of Runnymede. Bertha Calvadas, Mayor. And also, Nick sent me the accomplishments of the local chapter today, my email, and I put it out to the public, and I gave a copy to everybody at the dais, so
Sorry about that, I didn't get that more involved in this proclamation, but we'll do your 100th anniversary. How's that?
Resolution 12-60 is an appointment resolution, and I understand I'm adding my Bernie Moore to this.
Yes.
An appointment as a part-time EMT, and I'm not sure what the rate is, for either of them. Whatever it is, 12 something, I believe.
We consistent with
Whatever it is within the ordinance, I'm really not sure. Okay.
He's doing it when he gets out of school.
Okay, so we
Help us
have,
out during the summer, because we're usually like handed because of people going on vacation and all that. Bernie will go in, and I thank Bernie for doing it.
okay, we have Brandon Lee Beedley as a part-time EMT, and we have Bernie Moore as a part-time EMT. Then we have the Green Team, Ed White, Pat Passio, Jerry Polinsky, Susan Whalen, Scott Marakowitz, Nick Ritz, Frank Williams, Pat Wilson, Kathleen Lucinda, Patricia Gunn, and John Gunn.
Excuse me, George. The amount is 1075.
For the EMTs, I'm sorry, that's not the box.
Thank you.
What is it, 1025 or 775?
I'll make a motion to approve this amendment.
Second.
All those in favor? Roll call.
Mrs. Passio,
Yes.
Mr. Capozzi,
Yes.
Mr. Kozlowski,
Yes.
Mr. White,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
and Mr. Beatrice.
Yes.
6 ayes.
I move the resolution be approved.
Introduction of the 2012 municipal budget. Would you like to talk about the numbers, Rich?
Well, it's a good thing it's only an introduction, first reading.
Okay, the first page in your packet is sheet 2 of the actual document, which will be sent up within 3 days to DCA. Sorry about that. I think I saw in the agenda, it did say we needed to determine what the date was for the public hearing. I think you put that in the agenda. What did you have for that? Is that the 6th at 5:30?
6/6/12.
Okay.
That's council meeting. It's a Wednesday. Day of the coroner.
Okay. Page 2 is basically the main sheet that everyone has the questions on. And I will just quickly go over this. Obviously, we'll have a presentation at the budget hearing, and we will have these documents on the website between now and the budget hearing, probably by Monday. The total amount for the current fund will be $7,251,900. And that represents a 2-cent increase. If you look at the worksheet you have, it shows you the actual and estimated for 2012 for each category, from the county tax all the way down to the local purpose. And then there's a column on the far right for change. And you'll notice under local purpose, if you go over to the right, it is 2 cents. The net valuation taxable in 2012 is $334,255,309. And our local levy, which does not include the library anymore, they have their own separate line item, is $4,766,233.30. The average assessed home in the municipality is 99.2 based on the table of aggregates. So for the local, a 2-cent increase on the average assessment for the year for local will be $20. And we also show the increase for the total tax rate of all the taxing entities for schools and county and ourselves. And that would be $152 for everybody. But the borough's portion of that would only be $20. And the spreadsheet's a little different this year than it was last year. It'll keep going by $10,000 roughly. from 50 up to 450. So if 99.2 is a little low, to use 150 as an example, that would be a $30 increase per year for the borough. The sewer fund will be $881,000, and that's only slightly higher than it was last year. There is no rate increase for the sewer fund, and we did have some capital issues and an emergency earlier in the year for that collapsed main that we had to work on, so that attributed to the increase for the most part. And I guess we can hold any questions that you may have to the end. The next page is the sewer revenues and sewer appropriations. I put them first just so we could keep them together and they didn't get mixed in. And then the next page is the appropriations by line item. It does list the 5 largest, which I'll just quickly go over. For revenue, I'm sorry, the first page is revenues. Our largest revenue is the local tax levy. Second largest is the energy receipts tax, which they classify as state aid now. Third largest is receipts from delinquent taxes. Fourth largest is fund balance, and our fifth largest is, and it is gaining momentum, is EMS billings. And those guys are doing a great job on that. We're seeing increases this year based on the ordinance last year where we increased it. And you will note under the middle of the page, there's $20,000, and it's attributed to a fee ordinance for EMS billings. And that was a conservative estimate based on the resolution, or the ordinance that you approved last year. And again, the total there for the revenues is $7,251,900. The next page, and there's several pages that goes with it, is the appropriations by line item. Off to the far right is the page that these items appear on the actual legal document. There's a percent change column, and it also has a column that gives you the total percentage of the 2012 budget. Quickly, I'll tell you that our number one expenditure is for public safety for police. Number 2 is debt service for payment of bond principal, which is down $120,000 last year, this year from last year. Third largest is employee group insurance. Pardon me? Employee group insurance, and that does include contributions based on the new pension and health insurance laws. Fourth largest is the reserve for uncollected taxes. And the fifth largest is police and fire retirement system. Just a couple footnotes. Due to the changes in the pension law, we had about a $39,000 reduction from the prior year on our pension bills. There was a letter sent from the governor basically telling you that I think that decrease was $150,000. That decrease was 2012 to 2012. Basically, they told you that if we didn't have this, your bill would have been significantly higher, but the actual decrease from the prior year is approximately $40,000. We had some attrition of employees. Our goals, as was set by the Finance Committee and the Finance Director, were to maintain the level of service. We're continuing to improve our infrastructure, providing training where necessary. We're continuing with our plan of responsible bonding. We finalized our police contract, and our public works contract is ready for council consideration. It may not be tonight, but we're ready for council's final approval. The employee co-pays, as I stated, and increased pension contributions have also helped. One thing that's not in here, and it will change the number, but it doesn't change the amount of the budget, is the grants. We have grants at various states of approval, whether it be Safe and Secure, the one from the county, I think even the 250 from last year. We don't have the final award letters that the state wants in your budget package, so we can't put them in here. They'll be part of the amendment process. If they're not ready by budget adoption, then they would have to go into Chapter 159.
very anxious for you to know that they were giving back money to the communities. That was called the gross receipts and franchise tax. In its history, the state decided that they were better at collecting that, and we'll take it and we'll redistribute it to you. Well, that stopped, and it's coming back to you now as state aid. So that's really your money that they're holding. And I wanted you to know that the New Jersey Conference of Mayors, the hot topic was, even from assembly people, that they don't call it the gross receipts and franchise tax anymore, but it's on the minds of the people in Trenton. I want you to know that. I'm not saying that we're going to get it all back. You know, the governor's a tough guy. You know, if you take this away from him, then he's got to get, I shouldn't say him, if you take it away from the state, they're going to have to find other sources of revenue. But I'm confident that something is going to be done because there's too many people talking about it. You know, Mr. Greenwald's going to do it, and I really don't know. But I think that you ought to know that the mayors across the state of New Jersey are very cognizant of the fact that they're collecting this money, it belongs to us, and they're trying to find a way to give it back. How it's going to be done, I don't know. You know, they talked about property taxes for the Constitutional Convention too. The mayor supported that, but it would take a lot of courage to do that. Be a, you know, changing the Constitution, they don't do that. I'm just an optimistic guy. I think that something's going to come out of it. What it is, I don't know. Just like the pension, you know, I don't know if the public knows it, but shortly, employees will be paying more towards their pension with a bigger contribution. So it's a program that looks like it's going to help out tremendously. So I just wanted to throw that out.
May I, actually, for the benefit of the public, may I dovetail into that with the item that I said was number 2 on the revenue sheet, and I'm sure you're aware of this. State aid, as they call it, remained flat this year. The law that changed the collection agency to the state for the gross receipts tax requires that they index you to inflation each year, or else there's a poison pill that sends it back to the municipalities. So basically what they do each year, and you can see it on your spreadsheet if you look down, is that they increased your energy receipts tax, is what they call it under state aid now, by $30,892, but they reduced your contra aid by $30,892 because there's no rules that go with contra aid, which has its own history. So basically your state aid is even, but they increased your energy tax.
And you must be mindful that the school boards, if they change their election to November versus May, and they stay within the cap of that the governor set, that they not need to get any further approval. So we won't be voting on the budget for the state. I want to thank you, Rich. I think it was a hard road to go. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Rich and I started at 0. That's where we were, and we tried to darn us to get down to 0, but I think 2 cents is something that we can live with. And just to get this last number, if you own a house worth $450,000, your tax would go less than $92. I mean, everybody always says it's $75,000 house. There could be a few of them, but just as there is a few. But Richie was kind enough to put in $10,000 increments, and you just see what.
That's assessment.
But that's a little,
Assess that.
that's a little ball. That is the school.
I understand it, you work without a school board, so.
I know.
So thank you, Richard.
No problem.
Thank you, Rich.
I'd like to thank all the committees for their time.
And you look through that before the final meeting, Rich.
Need a motion to
So at this
approve?
point, I would move for an introduction of 2012 budget. We have approval on first reading, advertising according to law, and a public hearing will be held on June 6th at 5:30 p.m. The meeting started.
And the roll call on that, please.
Second.
12-61 is a resolution awarding a contract to the low bidder for the resurfacing of East Second and East Third Avenue.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Passios?
Yes.
Mr. Capadas?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Kizalewski?
Yes.
And Mr. Beatrice?
Yes.
That's 6 ayes.
I move that the resolution be adopted.
Resolution 12-62 is a resolution awarding the contract to the low bidder for the resurfacing of Green Avenue.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Passios?
Yes.
Mr. Capadas?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Kizalewski?
Yes.
And Mr. Beatrice?
Yes.
I move that the resolution be adopted.
Resolution 12-63 is a resolution awarding a contract to the low bidder for the 2012 handicap grant program.
I'll make the motion. Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Passios?
Yes.
Mr. Capadas?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Kizalewski?
Yes.
And Mr. Beatrice?
I move that the resolution be adopted.
We still need the closed session, right? We talked about,
Do we need to authorize the payment?
do we need the closed session for anything?
I don't even,
I don't think.
Then I'll just wait. Okay.
you do need resolutions. so-
Yeah, I have it there. The next is Resolution 12-65, which is a resolution prohibiting left turns into the southerly Black Horse Pike driveway for a property located at 165 South Black Horse Pike, known as Block 105, Lots 10, 11, 1101, 1102, 1103, 12, and 13.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Passios?
Yes.
Mr. Capadas?
Yes.
Mr. Kizalewski?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
And Mr. Beatrice?
Yes.
That's 6
I
ayes.
move the resolution be adopted.
I'm going to go back to, I'm going to use the 1264 since we're not using it here. And I'm going to make 1264 as a resolution to settle the Van Camp grievance. You have an amount?
It's, we do both online, or do 2 separate?
There's both.
Can we do them both or separate now?
You should do them separate.
Separate.
Want to do first, we can't.
Okay. I need an amount. I think that we need to approve the amount.
I say 3,000.
$5,733.
$5,733. $733.15. Is that right?
Have a second. Roll call.
Mrs. Passios?
Yes.
Mr. Capadas?
Yes.
Mr. Kizalewski?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
And Mr. Beatrice?
Yes.
6 ayes.
I move the resolution be adopted.
And now Resolution 12-66
Yeah.
will be a resolution to settle the ground grievance in the amount of $1,000.
Move for adoption.
Second. Roll call.
Mrs. Passios?
Yes.
Mr. Capadas?
Yes.
Mr. Kizalewski?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice?
Yes.
6 ayes.
I move the resolution be adopted.
For first reading, ordinance 12-04, this is an ordinance amending ordinance 09-14, schedule of fees established for the summer recreation program. This raises it from $35 to $40.
Make a motion.
Roll call.
Right. Motion to adopt on first reading and advertise according to law, the public hearing to be held on the 6th day of June at a meeting beginning at 5:30. Who made the motion?
Nick and Jody second.
Mrs. Passios?
Yes.
Mr. Kizalewski?
Yes.
Mr. Capadas?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
And Mr. Beatrice?
Yes.
6 ayes. And then we have first reading of an ordinance to amend the traffic driveway of the plant property. I need a motion to adopt on first reading and advertise according to law, with the public hearing to be held on the 6th day of June, 2012, at a meeting beginning at 5:30.
Second. Second. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Pasio.
Yes.
Mr. Kozlowski.
Yes.
Mr. Capados.
Yes.
Mr. White.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
And Mr. Bates.
Resolution be
So
adopted.
that's going to be ordinance 12 dash, what's the next one? 05? 1205.
If we're ready, I'd like to move for payment of bills along with monthly contractual bills. Do we have something to add? Do you have something?
Well,
to
as
add?
long as we're all good with the Education Foundation, $500,
Are we
and
okay with that?
then if everyone's in at least agreement with the money coming out of recreation to go to Barrington, I'd like to have that.
Okay, if you want for Education Foundation, what about the other?
You know what, I don't disagree with you. I was only told that he,
Just want to hold on.
you want to do them all?
Yeah. Yeah.
It would be approval for payment as opposed to a manual, but it won't
How
be
would
done
you want
tonight.
to fees? How would you have to work it?
If you want to just verbally okay me to do a manual and pay them, I will pay them as they come. The paperwork has to be done, so as soon as the paperwork gets to me,
Each one signs and hands it in. I agree with that.
the dollar amount's okay for a manual, so.
Okay, then I'll move for the payment of bills along with monthly contractual bills with the following conditions. Those who get money for the cleanup provide proper paperwork and also $1,000 payment for the recreation budget to Barry.
All right. Thank you.
Okay?
Sounds good.
You know, second, Mike.
Second?
Thank you.
Need a second, Frank?
Right.
Mrs. Pasio?
Yes.
Mr. Kozlowski?
Yes.
Mr. Capados?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
And Mr. Bates?
Yes.
6 ayes.
This portion is open to good and welfare. Anyone wishing to speak, please come up to the microphone, state your name and address.
Ward Moore, 220 West First Avenue. About 2 weeks ago, this public safety.
Could you put it up to you, closer to your mouth, please? Thank you.
About 2 weeks ago, I saw a harrowing incident. There was a young driver who turned left on the bike path at Smith Lane. I've seen many people almost turn into there. This fellow drove down, he was about 150 feet down the line, and he realized he was wrong. Now, when he got to that point, he had sharp banks on each side. So I would highly recommend, as soon as possible, get a pipe put in the middle of the bike path there. There was a fellow standing, walking his dog along Bowers, and he was just standing there staring at the guy like, oh my God, I can't believe he's doing this. And I followed him down Bowers, and he came out the other end, and he got a little bit stuck because there's a pipe there with a mat, so he got out. But he didn't choose to back up. That could have been horrible. Some kid would have came scooting up on the bank to that bike path, could have a serious incident there, so I would really recommend.
Where did you say they turned on?
Smith Lane?
I guess he wanted to go down Bowers.
Oh, okay.
But he missed it. I see a lot of people almost take that turn, because it does look like a road, you know, because it's so open there. The do not enter signs are up, but they're pretty high up. And if you're on a little sports car like he had, I'm sure he just didn't see it. He scooted right down there, so that was good. So, that's something. And I would just like to know if any talk or discussion has been about the bicycle police. I still feel that that's an issue that should be brought up, and they should be out and about.
Last week, I talked to, Captain, he said he's working on it, as we talked, that's what he told me, they're still, talks about it. The problem is, I'll be honest with you, it's our money problem.
Yeah.
That's the issue, and we don't feel it's safe to send one cop by
I
himself.
think for the peculiarly saved.
I know, but we're not gonna use our regular, we use our special. You know, because we need our other officers on the street to respond to major calls or whatever. They're not gonna pedal from one side to the other. Yeah, but what it is,
Great minds here together.
we talked about it, and we'd like to send two at a time. We don't want to send one guy out, you know, that was the problem. And we sat down with Rich, we came up, what was it, Rich, over $5,000 more or something? For just that summer month, and trying to find the money. Yeah, have the bikes are all in the Sally Port ready to go.
We can't hear you.
Anyway, one other thing is, I would like to also see, I don't know if it's possible to get police reports put into the newspaper, so that people in this town are aware of what's happening. That, you know, because I feel that people that live around don't have a clue what's happening in town. So that might be something that can be brought up, you know, I know advertising is expensive also, but once a week or once a month, put the reports in. That way, everybody in the neighborhoods are aware of, like, home invasions, or drug deals, or, you know, prostitution, or God knows what else goes on, because you don't see it in the paper. So if you're not talking to your neighbors, let's face it, people, if neighbors talk to each other, people start to watch out for each other, you know? Otherwise, they don't think anything's wrong. They think everything's sunshine and roses and running. Sometimes it isn't. So if they're made aware of it, I think that that's a good way to focus your attention, get people aware of what's happening, and they can, report to the police, hey, something's going on in the neighborhood, you know, people aren't here that don't belong there. So if they have that information, say, oh my God, they're like, you know, home invasions are happening in my neighborhood, let's keep a block watch and look at this, you know, become aware, we need awareness in the community to, you know, help people out, so, you know, your neighbor is encouraged, and that's all. Consider it, that's all.
Thank you.
I do want to say, I was at the acres running around the walking path, and a truck was coming towards me on the path. And I stopped the gentleman, and he was working on the baseball fields down there. And so Nick Ritz gave me a key to that lock, so that those gentlemen, I said to him, I gave him my phone number, I said, if you need to get down here, or call Public Works, because those gentlemen who rent that property, rent our field, they like to maintain it, and he was driving down the path towards me on there, so I think we at one time had spoke about putting those removable ballots. Is that had any progress, Ed, or Mark, do you remember we talked about that?
Yeah, it kind of fell to the wayside. We're gonna put one of them.
It's like a plastic one, is that what it
Well,
was?
what it is, yeah, they ride down the end, and come around and come up with a.
So you've seen, they do, they come up to see the tentacle.
Because they want to drag the field, work on the field.
And I think it's okay that they go down and drag the field and bring the dirt,
But they should go the proper way.
there were people walking their dogs, but and if removable is possible, I think that would work, at least allow us to get down there, because I think our public works,
We need to make sure we get a fire truck or an ambulance in there.
yeah. So I think we really ought to look at that at both entrances at Green Acres, and it sounds like maybe also at, you know,
Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I'll close this portion.
Move to close.
Second.
All those in, all those in favor? Those opposed?